Medicine Bliss podcast. I am your host, Lisa Kay, here with the beautiful co-host, Jennifer Conkey.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. And guys, we have an awesome guest for you today. So Chad Connor, CEO of Pure Ratios. Not only are you offering education when it comes to the CBD market, but also amazing products and information just to share. This is obviously a hot topic right now. So much going on when it comes to the world of cannabis. So I'm really excited to have you on to not only share some education with us, but also, I think level set some things and clear up some things for those who are just starting to dip their toe into this world. So with that, Chad, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks for joining us, and would just love for you to kick us off with a little bit about your company and about you and how you got started.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. I'm happy to be here. So this is a great question. So I got involved in this industry about 5 years ago, and it's actually something very passionate for me. My background is I've been a natural healthcare practitioner for over 20 years. And so I really come from the practitioner side. I've been an herbalist and acupuncturist. I've owned a lot of integrative clinics throughout the US, and actually I was in Morocco, Casablanca for 11, 12 years, did the same thing there. And one of the things that's been always very interesting to me is herbs, but particularly cannabis as a plant. And so actually 5 years ago, I had a very successful practice over in Morocco. I also opened an acupuncture training institute called Institute Wu Wei. That was the first acupuncture training institute in North Africa. We did that for about 6 years, trained roughly 35, 40 Moroccans to become acupuncturists. During that time, education's also always been a really important thing for me, and just transmitting what I've learned. So 5 years ago, I get a call from my dad actually saying, "Hey, I'm doing a cannabis company," which was a big shock to me. I said, "Wow, that's amazing." And he said, "Let's do it together." I was not expecting that at that moment. Had a great business. I saw myself in Morocco for a while. My daughter was born there. My wife's Moroccan. She's also an acupuncturist and part of this company also. But it was one of those times in life where I had a kind of a crossroad. I was a little bit burnt from practicing. I just treated so many patients every day. And after a while, you kind of get to a point where you plateau. That feel like, when I look back retrospect, that's what happened to me. So I came back here, we took the adventure, we said, let's do this. And when I came into the industry, the first thing I saw was this plant people looking at it from a biochemical, pharmacological, almost Western science perspective. And that was a shock to me also because, for example, if I look at Chinese medicine, in my lineage, cannabis was the first book talked about. The first book talked about cannabis was from Chinese medicine, and there was a guy named Shen Nong. He was a mythical emperor of China, and he's the grandfather of Chinese herbology. He wrote a book called The Divine Farmer's Classic to Herbology, and in that book, he mentioned cannabis, and he really mentioned it what you see today. And so we see this huge lineage of an herbal perspective of cannabis that was not talked about. And so that really opened me up to cannabis medicine, to how do we personalize it, but from a holistic perspective. If that makes sense. Not like a single molecule like we see a lot of the doctors doing. They don't know how to work with more than one molecule. That's not their training. We're an herbalist, that's what we do. We work with one. In Chinese medicine, you use anywhere from 5 to 20 plants in a formula. So you have a lot of different actives there. And so you know how to personalize from a holistic perspective. So we brought that into cannabis medicine. And we developed Pure Ratios, which is a brand that really, it straddles both Western science, which is very important because now we have certificate of analysis where we know exactly what's in the plant. So I can take that lab test and then look at it from an energetic perspective, where my grandfathers that used cannabis thousands of years ago, they didn't have access to that. So they would get strains and hit and miss. Some of them would have cannabinoids, some of them wouldn't. And you can start to see in the literature how after a while, because hemp was such a big crop in China, they stopped recommending the flower because there was no more cannabinoids, which is the active here being CBD or THC. is part of the strains. And so today we can get a strain, look what's in it from a Western perspective, and have all the scientific research, and then look at it from a more holistic perspective and really marry both. And that birthed Pure Ratios, in essence. And we created a whole product line, really mixing both medical devices like patches, transdermal patches, and then capsules that mix Chinese herbs, adaptogenic mushrooms with cannabis, and starting to really look at both, and really looking at mode of delivery, which is a whole topic that people don't really understand, but how you take your cannabis counts. That was kind of a long one, but I could talk for hours on it.
Oh
I
my
don't know if
God.
you
No, it
have
makes
any
sense. I mean, there
questions.
was a lot of
Like,
medical stuff in there, right? And I
Right.
think that one of the things that we're trying for our audience is there's people out there who they're asking questions like, so from a pain perspective, what do I do for pain management, inflammation, and will I pop on a drug test? Like, can you walk us through some of those concerns that people have and how to navigate through it?
Absolutely. Great question. So we can start with the drug test one first.
Okay.
What I recommend to everyone, even if you're taking a CBD hemp product, so I think the first thing we got to define is what's the difference between a hemp CBD product and a cannabis product, right? So that's just a different way to look at it. So what the government has decided is if you have less than 0.3% THC, it's considered a hemp product. And if it has more than 0.3 THC, it's a cannabis product.
Okay.
So it's actually has nothing to do with the plant. It has to do with the cannabinoid or CBD content.
Okay. Makes
Right.
sense.
And so you can grow a strain that has, let's say, more than 0.3% THC. And if you extract it out in the extraction process under 0.3, it's a hemp plant. So it's all about that. Cannabis and hemp is the exact same species. It's Cannabis sativa. That's the botanical name. So it's the same. It just happens to do with this 0.3 and what you're using it for. So hemp is usually used for the stem and stalk, because you can take that and make rope. You can make hempcrete to build houses. You can make fuel. You can make, a lot of things with the stem and stalk. And then the cannabis, you use the flower. The flower is the bud, some people call it. So the flower has cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are things called, we have THC and CBD are the two major ones we know of, but there's over 120 in the plant. The only one being psychoactive is THC. All the other cannabinoids are not non-psychoactive. So you can take them and you're not feeling high. And there's also other things in the plant. There's terpenes and flavonoids, which are the two other therapeutic actives we look at. And so that's in the flower. So that's really the difference. So, but to go back to the drug test, what I tell people, there's been a study that came out recently that showed if you take CBD in your digestive tract in your stomach, it can start to convert to THC. So because you see studies like that, I recommend that anybody that has to have a drug test for their job to not take any CBD or THC product, just not to risk it. Does that make sense? But you can take CBD products topically.
Got it.
So I can put it on my skin because it's not going to go into the bloodstream.
Okay.
Right? Because cannabis, CBD, and THC are a fat molecule. Fat molecules are big, and they don't have a tendency not to go through the skin, right? You need a water-soluble product. And so we're not finding anybody really not passing a drug test topically. But if I'm taking it orally, or if I'm smoking it, or taking it transdermally, I can fail a drug test. So I tell people to stay away from it overall.
Sense. Yeah, and I personally use those pain patches, and they are amazing. They're amazing.
Thank you.
And they're so easy to use, and they last for a couple of days, and they even last in the shower. I was impressed.
Correct.
Yeah, I was
Well,
really impressed.
One of the things we're finding, this is a great question, is transdermal is a real beneficial mode of delivery. The reason being is you can accurately dose your cannabis or CBD product through the skin for a long period of time. When I take it orally, particularly the fact that cannabis is a fat molecule, my absorption through my digestive tract is all over the place, through patient to patient, throughout the day, if I've ate a meal or not, I'm going to absorb it differently. And then we have something called liver metabolism. So when I take a cannabis product, my liver has to process and metabolize it, and it changes the molecule to, actually one molecule to another. It creates a half-life. It creates a heightening effect. So the oral route tends to be not the most ideal mode of delivery, where things like transdermal are great because it's getting directly into the bloodstream. So
Yeah.
you're not having to go through the digestive tract and have to deal with absorption. So you're absolutely right. And the molecule size of cannabinoids are the perfect size to get through the skin. They're actually
Yeah.
smaller than things like fentanyl, which is one of the main ways you use fentanyl is transdermally also. And cannabis is smaller size molecule. So it ends up being an ideal one for transdermal application. And that's why we have a transdermal product. It just works super well for patients. And it's long lasting, like you said.
Yeah. So is there a thing where I know that they do it, what is it? I don't know what the process is called when you put it under your tongue with the droppers, you know,
Sublingual.
sublingual. Thank you. I couldn't. So the sublingual, when you're doing that under the tongue, is it true you have to build that up after a few days before you really see some of the benefits, or is it
No.
instantaneous?
So the sublingual it's actually your whole mouth. So we talk about under the tongue, but in general, your whole mouth or your oral mucosa, which is your whole, buccal membrane of
Yeah.
your mouth, is where it gets absorbed. So yeah,
Okay.
you can put it under the tongue, but it'll get absorbed through your cheeks and through everywhere in your mouth. And it's fast acting. So it's not about really building up a tolerance. When you do a sublingual or an oral mucosa delivery mechanism, it gets directly into your bloodstream through your mouth.
Okay.
But it needs to have things like, for example, ethanol. Alcohol is a
Yep.
skin penetration enhancer. So most sublinguals are alcohol based because it goes directly into your blood through your mouth. It's also a transdermal with ethanol. You can put ethanol in with your cannabis, put it on your skin, and you'll have a psychoactive if it's THC, for example. So things
Okay.
like that. So sublingual is a great one also because you can get a fast acting and you can accurately dose and not worry about liver metabolism and the digestive tract.
That's cool. Chad, when it comes to dosing, let's just say there's a particular topic that I really want to ask about, and that's like adults or children with ADHD and how you
Mm-hmm.
feel CBD might be able to help with that. And if you feel that it can help with that, what would the dosing look like for, a 60-pound kid? Should we be giving that to kids? Or a 200-pound grown-ass man? Like, what's the difference? How do you come up with the dosing on that to make it effective?
Dosing is a giant question.
Okay,
So
that's what I
when I
thought.
talk about cannabis, for me, it's very important to personalize cannabis, and I don't think we talk about it enough. So just to bring it back a little bit, and I'll answer your question on dosage. So
Sure.
when we personalize cannabis, we need to look at 4 different things.
Okay.
So we need to look at the cannabinoid ratio. So the ratio of CBD to THC, we call that a ratioed product. That's where Pure Ratios, the name of my company, comes from. So we look at the percentage of both. So we need to personalize that with the patient. We also need to look at the terpene profile. So terpenes are very interesting. They're pharmacologically active molecules. They're what 80% of essential oils are. So when you make an essential oil blend, you're extracting the terpenes out of the plant. And in cannabis, that's what changes the strains, the terpene profiles. Again, you have around 120 terpenes also, just like
Oh,
120 cannabinoids. And each terpene ratio makes a different therapeutic direction. So I'll give you an example. If you have a strain that's myrcene, which is a terpene, you have a myrcene dominant, it's more going to be a relaxation formula. So
okay.
an indica strain are usually myrcene dominant. So another one, if you look at a sativa strain, it's going to be more limonene, which is another terpene dominant. And that's going to be more towards the head, right? So these terpenes, by looking at the profiles, we see what the therapeutic direction is going to be. So we have to personalize that also. That's the second one.
Okay. Now, real quick question. You
Yep.
have you have the sativa strain and you have the indica strain. I've also heard of the hybrid. I mean, are you going to touch on the hybrid?
Yeah. So hybrid is just a mix of the both. So
Okay.
it's going to be you can have a hybrid, which is mixing an indica strain with a sativa strain, and they call that a hybrid. So these ideas of indica, hybrid, and sativa are starting, I think, is a really good thing. It's starting to disappear because you can't really look at it that way. There's too many variables to look at 3 buckets.
Yeah.
Right. So there's sites like leafly.com, which I highly recommend. They just did a kind of a typology and an infographic system where you could start to understand it, not looking at it as indica, hybrid, or sativa. That's really cutting edge cannabis medicine because it's too diverse.
Okay.
But today we still call them those three things, but it's too generalized, but that's what we do. Sativa being more head uplifting, more cognitive supporting, where indica being more what we call couch lock, where you go to
Yeah.
sleep. It's for like insomnia and relaxation, right? So you kind of could look at it that way, but it's a little bit too basic for what we're trying to do. But that's what we say today in the terminology.
Gotcha.
So,
Does that answer your question?
It does answer it. Thank you.
so within your business, you talk a ton about personalizing this. So is that a service that you guys offer? Do you have, like, if someone's to order your products, do they work through like a representative for your company to,
Yes.
okay.
So
That's
just to finalize the personalization thing, and then I'll go to that answer too. So the other two things you need to do for personalization is you need to look at dosage, which answers one of the questions. And the second one is mode of delivery or
Mhm.
mode of administration. How am I taking it transdermally, orally, through my mouth, through my lungs, through my nose? We could take it so many different ways. So those four things personalize it
yeah.
in general. And can you ask your question one more time? Sorry.
Well, so I'm just curious. So there's so many ways to personalize it. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
CBD products out there, and people are just randomly pulling things off the shelf and saying, it didn't work for me, right? So how does your company provide that information to an individual so they get the product that is actually going to be used for their ailment?
So this is a great question. So what we've done is we actually have a holistic cannabis clinic as part of our company.
Oh,
So what we've done is, for me, I've owned a lot of integrative clinics in my life, and we've created a clinic which is actually inside a dispensary out in Palm Springs area, where we have 6 treatment rooms, and we also have an R&D and clinical research part of our clinic. So what we're doing is we actually have our hands on patients every day with practitioners that personalize and specialize in cannabis medicine from a holistic perspective to start to personalize it in these 4 ways I mentioned. We do offer something we call telemedicine, where somebody can come in and through Zoom with one practitioners, we can actually personalize your cannabis recommendation for you. And then you can go to your local dispensary, or if you're using CBD hemp products, you can order them online and get them directly to your house. So that's one thing we do offer for your listeners. If you want to have a personalized, and this is a very unique actually concept. I don't know of any other holistic cannabis clinics myself, particularly one connected to a company. And so what we're able to do is create a product and then try it out on patients, live patients, and then see if it's working, tweak it before we actually release it to the masses, so we know our products work. And this
gotcha.
is something I'm very passionate about. And we even have a little R&D lab where we can mix products in our clinic, and then they can come and we can try them on patients. So we can personalize it that way also. So that's how we conquered that. Because for me, I'm a practitioner at heart. So I need to touch patients. And I have a group of practitioners writing case studies, doing observational research on our products every day, more and more how to personalize this.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what if somebody wanted to find it? Like, do you have a website? How do we find it?
Yeah, so we have a couple websites. We have pureratios.com, which you can go to. We have purehealingclinic.com. That's
Okay.
our clinical website, which you can find on Pure Ratios. And then we have pureratioscbd.com, which is our online store. We do both cannabis products and CBD hemp products. So you
Okay.
can buy our products in the hemp version, which we ship to all 50 states. And then you can buy our cannabis products in California, in Massachusetts, in Oregon, in Washington State, and Puerto Rico. We sell them in different states through licensing agreements. So we have companies producing our products in those states.
That's awesome.
And so I heard that you provide a COA for anyone who is interested in, and so tell us a little bit, like, what are you the most proud of with your COA? Like, are you guys, testing for glyphosate exposure? Are you testing for heavy metal exposure? Like, what are you most proud of with your COA?
Well, what we do, first of all, is we're in California. So California has some of the most stringent lab testing, actually the most stringent lab testing of the whole United States. So we have to do 9 tests, lab tests, from microbial, which is bacteria, molds, funguses, pesticides. The pesticide laws in California are greater than the organic pesticide laws in the whole US. So when we have, for example, we use organic, different carrier oils and things in our product in California, and often they don't pass. Even though they're organic certified, they won't pass California lab testing. So what I'm proud of is both our CBD hemp and our cannabis products all pass California standards. If you look at CBD hemp products in particular, people are mostly testing, let's say, pesticides and cannabinoid content. So the content of CBD, for example, we test all 9 of all of our products. So I'm very proud that we can pass California standards with both hemp and our cannabis products. So that's what we do. So we do 9 lab tests on all of our products, including terpene profiles. We make sure that all of our oils are broad spectrum. What that means is they have all the minor cannabinoids also. A lot of people are using something called CBD isolate. So what that product is they extract everything out of the plant except for CBD. We believe that oils are not that great. You want to have the minor cannabinoids in there. You want to have the terpenes. You want to have the flavonoids. These 3 therapeutic molecules. So we have all that in the plant also. So sourcing of ingredients is extremely important for us as a company, and particularly me as an herbalist. For me, it's the quality of your product is essential.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier, Chad, about, and this is something I know I have a couple of audience members that are going to be pretty passionate when I ask this question. They'll be on the edge of their seat. But you mentioned a capsule that mixes the cannabinoids and mushrooms. So talk to us about that, because I have a couple of friends that are into the holistic psychedelic healing process for traumas and everything else. And I know that they're all interested in will mushrooms or psilocybin, I don't even know if that's what it is that you're using. Will it be legal? How does that work if it's in there? So what is, when you said that you use that, I already know that everybody that's going to listen heard that and they're like, when is she going to ask? So there's a pill or a capsule that combines the 2. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so this is also a very passionate subject for me. So when you look at cannabis is a very unique plant. So it's a plant that works with our endocannabinoid system. So just to talk a little bit science and get a little bit nerdy. So the endocannabinoid system is something that was discovered in the early 90s. And what it is, it's a physiological system in the body that its whole function is to create balance. So it's it's the largest receptor network in the entire body. So you find it in everywhere, from the central, peripheral, all the organs, the immune cells, the skin, the fascia, the bones, it's everywhere, the endocannabinoid system. And so we produce cannabinoids in our body. And these cannabinoids, what they do is that if you have an excess, they're going to turn it down. And if you have a deficiency, they're going to turn it up, both in the immune cells and the whole nervous system. And so it's the system that's helping the body stay in balance, so healing happens. So what really made me passionate at this, I realized actually holistic medicine, that's exactly what we're doing. Any holistic therapy, we're helping the body to find balance, and then healing happens. So actually there's a physiological system that's doing exactly that, called the endocannabinoid system. And so what happens is cannabis now falls in a category of herbs called adaptogenic herbs. So adaptogenic herbs, they do exactly that. They help us adapt to stressors in our environment. So it's became a huge, botanical category today. And what falls in there is a lot of the main herbs in different pharmacopoeias of different traditions in the world. So for example, ginseng is an adaptogenic plant. Astragalus is an adaptogenic plant. So we have all these Chinese herbs, Ayurvedic herbs from India, Western herbs that fall under this category, and a lot of them happen to be medicinal mushrooms. So mushrooms is a category of herbology that's vast, and we're more as human beings towards funguses than we are to plants. So in genetic evolution, when plants happened in funguses, we went down the fungus route as humans. So we come from that lineage. So actually mushrooms work extremely well as in health benefits in our body. And they tend to be majorly adaptogenic. So things like reishi mushrooms, cordyceps, chaga, lion's mane. These really powerful mushrooms, they're non-psychoactive. They're not psilocybin, but they're creating a lot of health benefits in the body. So
Gotcha.
what we did with pure ratios, because adaptogenic plants have massive therapeutic directions. So if you look at cannabis, it has about 15 to 20 therapeutic directions. You're like, how can one plant do all that? Right? Like it can help with inflammation, it can help with sleep, it can help with mood disorders, it can help with autoimmune diseases, it can help with inflammatory diseases, it can help with so many different ways because it's working on balance. And so what we've done as herbalists is we started to synergize therapeutic directions.
Okay.
Right? Let's do exactly that. So we added all.
I think we lost him.
Crap.
Chad, you were just getting to the good part.
Chad. No.
Chad, are you there?
This happens every time, like I'm on the edge of my seat. Just tell me about the
He's
capsule.
like,
oh,
okay,
you're
Chad,
back.
we
Okay,
lost
you froze.
Hold on, you're
I'm
back.
back.
Okay, so you were saying, so what we've done as herbalists, and then we lost you.
Man, okay, great, no problem. So what we've done with as herbalists is we've now synergized these therapeutic directions of cannabis. As I mentioned, there's like 15 to 20 of them. So we've wrapped around, and this is how you do herbology from a traditional perspective, particularly Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine from India, Tibetan medicine from Tibet. And so what we do is we've added adaptogenic herbs, include Chinese herbs and medicinal mushrooms, to synergize 4 of the 15 therapeutic directions to start, right? So we have one we call Boost that boosts immunity. So autoimmune diseases, it boosts energy. We have another one we call Think, which boosts cognitive function. One of the main things we see with cannabis is things like you guys mentioned autism or epilepsy or multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. So these neurological conditions cannabis can help with. So we add medicinal mushrooms and Chinese adaptogenic herbs to strengthen the cognitive function. So the third one, we call it Move. So one of the major things we're finding is cannabis is a major anti-inflammatory herb. So it helps with inflammation. It's non-addictive. We have no receptors in our reptilian brain, so you can't die from cannabis like you can the opioids, because we have opioid receptors, so we can stop breathing, turn off our heart rate. Where cannabis, nobody's ever died from cannabis. So it's an amazing alternative to the whole opioid epidemic because it's a major anti-inflammatory. So we put medicinal mushrooms, again, Chinese herbs, to support that inflammatory function of cannabis. The fourth one we call Calm. And so this one we put herbs in to help you relax, to help with sleep, help with anxiety, any people that are nervous overall. So those are, for example, how we do our capsules. And at the same time, we do something where we put water-soluble CBD. And this is important because all these herbs traditionally are water extracted. So when you buy them, they're water-soluble. Cannabis is a fat molecule, so you have to do a trick, turn it water-soluble so everything dissolves at the same time, and then you get the magic of the formula. So that's the capsules.
Wow, that's a lot of science. That's awesome. So 4 capsules. All right. Yeah, there you have it, guys. And is that at Pure Ratios?
It might be a little nerdy for you guys. It is.
No, is that Pure Ratios?
CBD.com.
That's where they can get those?
CBD. Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
No, trust me, a lot of people in the audience that I know are going to really love that explanation. So that was really cool.
Great.
Thank
Great.
Well, I absolutely love this. I'm actually currently detoxing. I just took an amazing comprehensive full body scan through creatingbalancedhealth.com that I'm obsessed with. And so I'm detoxing from 3 types of molds, candida, a couple parasites, some mycoplasma pneumoniae, which is probably what's going on right now. Parasite viruses, all the disgusting stuff, which by the way, everyone out there has. So don't you guys be grossed out by me. You have it too. You don't know it. But anyway, it's been life-changing for me, and I'm doing it all through herbs, all holistically, and through obviously diet change. And it's been amazing. I have not introduced mushrooms yet because I had 3 types of mold. So I am, delayed on that through my practitioner, but just absolutely love the knowledge that you're dropping right now. And, you know, I appreciate it because, you know, I've been subjected to medical error. And so for a while, I broke up with Western medicine. I was like, unless my eyeball's hanging out of my head, don't talk to me. Um, and so it's really beautiful to see the blend of Western medically trained, you know, practitioners in Western science blending with, you know, the historically Eastern philosophies. I mean,
Hmm.
to me, it is absolutely incredible movement that's happening in that way. And there are so many, you know, Western MDs who are actually becoming functional medicine doctors and
Correct.
integrative health practitioners because they see how pharma is failing us every day, every minute of every day, and not healing us. And so it's beautiful to see the blend of the Western science and the Eastern herb education coming together to truly help us heal. You know, and we could get into all the other conspiracy theories that aren't conspiracy theories out there of, you know, what's trying to prevent that, right? But I think just thank you so much for what you're doing, and the education is the biggest piece because you can
Mm.
just go grab CBD from any like random vape store on the corner, you know, and
Right.
it's not actually going to help heal you. And so I just really appreciate your passion, and I'm so
Mm.
like in awe of everything you're saying.
Awesome. Chad, when you're not in a lab making magic happen, like what do you do for fun? How do you maintain your bliss and joy in life aside from the really cool mushroom capsules?
You know, I've been avid meditator. I've been on a spiritual path since I was 16, and it's a spiritual path mixing psychology and Eastern philosophy for the most part. I'm really, you know, we're all in the Western world, so I really like tying what we know from Western science, even psychology, with spirituality from the East, right? So I do a lot of that overall. So I'll meditate, do a lot of retreats, spiritual retreats. That's just something that's just always been part of my life. And that really helps me to keep balance. Also, I do practice every once in a while. So we have our clinic. So I work maybe a half day a week there, you know, and that's really something that creates, you know, a balance in me just by being in the treatment room. Overall, and putting my hands on patients. I'm also a professor at the local acupuncture school, so educating and is something that also I think for me it nourishes my heart so much. It'll help me, you know, create a balance also. And then just spending time with my daughter and my wife and friends, and you know, really trying to create balance that way. Eating right, taking, like you said, you know, nice herbal supplements. All that is a way, and getting treatments is a way to create balance for myself. And I have a pretty intense life. You know, I'm the CEO of this company and we're growing tremendously. We got bought by a public company in May. So now we're part of a company called Forefront. And so we're part of a bigger group, which has been very amazing for us as a company. And so we're just really growing. And for me, I was in the treatment room for 20 years. And when I was ability to, you know, treat one-on-one, now with the brand, I can really help heal the whole planet with something, you know, with different products. And my wife, who's been an herbalist, we went to school together, she's our head formulator. So we have at the helm of all of our product development is somebody that's based in science and herbology, right? So that's also something I think very unique for what we're doing. And it's just a dream come true to be part of
That's
this project,
awesome.
really.
I can't
Yeah.
wait. I want to come to the treatment center in Palm Springs. I'm going to
Please.
figure out how to
Any
do
reason
that.
for me to go to Palm Springs, I'm down for it. I'm down for it.
Right? Yeah.
You know, the cool thing is we have a clinic and the dispensary has a drive-through, so you could get your cannabis through a cannabis drive-through.
Drive through. That's awesome. That's really cool. So we really enjoyed the time that we spent with you today, Chad. I really appreciate it. So anybody that wants to get any of the products that you've talked about, pureratios.com or pureratioscbd.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Any parting
Well, it's been a
messages you want to
pleasure.
give us?
You know, one last thing is, you know, it'd be interesting to talk about dosage eventually, because that's a question you had. I would just say dosage, start low, go slow, and don't be afraid to get high.
Perfect. Okay. Cool. I like it.
End it with that.
Yeah. Chad, it's been awesome. Thank you for your time today. And thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.